All right, so I gave a little teaser about who you guys are, but let's start off with some introductions.
Yes, I am Alexx Kehoe. I am the email and SMS channel manager for Barbecue Guys. I've been there a little bit over a year and a half. I come from a background of working in dental marketing, so big change, very focused on lead gen. I went to agency from there and then decided that I was really dreaming of an in-house role, so very happy with that decision that I've made.
And hi, I'm Geoff Sanders. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Firstleaf. If you're not familiar with Firstleaf, it's a direct-to-consumer wine subscription and winery. And while I have many years of wine consumption experience, this is my first job in the wine industry. Prior to working at Firstleaf, I was at Casper, the mattress company, Betterment, the online investment advisor, Gilt Group, the flash sale retailer, and Citibank. And actually, I think there are probably more similarities than differences in data-driven marketing across these organizations than I'm not sure I would have ever guessed.
Now, Geoff, does being a wine drinker make you a better wine marketer?
I think it does, because there's a constant tension within the organization of showing our wine expertise versus speaking to consumers in language that they know. And while I may have many years of drinking experience, I would not say that my depth of knowledge is particularly deep. And so when we're talking about, for instance, why you might like a certain type of wine or why we've chosen to introduce a new varietal into the club, I believe it's really, really important to position that to consumers, again, the way they might talk to a friend, as opposed to the way a sommelier might talk to them. Whereas our winemaking team, and we do have a winemaking team, there's actually someone in the C-suite named the Chief Wine Officer.
Are they hiring?
I think we're okay for the moment, but they're much more knowledgeable in wine, and so there's this constant back and forth about how do we make wine, how do we show our expertise, but also make it relatable.
So the first three questions that anyone asks whenever you're introducing yourselves here is who are you with, and what's your MarTech stack? So guys, what's your MarTech stack?
Yeah, for Barbecue Guys right now, we work with ListTrack for email, and for SMS, we work with Attentive, so we are functioning on separate platforms currently.
And we've worked really hard over the past few years to consolidate to as few platforms as possible. I've worked with Frankenstacks. I don't love Frankenstacks. So Braze is at the center of our marketing that connects directly to our Redshift data warehouse. We use Amplitude for all of our web analytics and really try and limit it to that.
Yeah, and so how are you guys enabling them, or what processes have you put in place to have them work better together as well?
I think for me, we haven't dug too much into that. I will say there's a lot of cross brainstorming between our reps, with me at the center, not with a direct communication. But a lot of the times when we are trying to initiate something new for email or SMS, I am always sure to bring in the representative from the other platform just so that we can talk through whether it is a good fit for that channel if they're thinking of something that I'm not, but also so that we can understand what data we want to gather from that too in a full sense versus working with the Frankenstacks.
We've talked a lot about the channel of choice for the customer, right? There's so many different ways they can interact with us. So how are you guys enabling your companies to give customers the choice to say, I want SMS or push or in-app or email, or maybe all four, who knows?
So, the wine delivery experience has a lot of friction, right? Someone who's 21 has to be there. You need to sign for it. It's not us who's delivering the wine, it's FedEx or UPS. And so because of that, we feel that it's really, really important to give customers that choice of where they want to get these notifications, provide as much visibility as we can into where their box of wine is. And so, while we're all in on predictive modeling and all sorts of other geeking out with data in other parts of the business, I've felt really strongly that we should not try and predict which channels customers actually will want. We really should give them the choice. And so there are some folks who just want emails. We've recently been investing in our mobile app. We're really excited for push notifications in that. If some people want to hear that their wine is out for delivery in 3 separate channels, that's great. We're happy to support them.
Yeah, and I will echo too, for us, we do look at I'm sorry, can you repeat? I'm so sorry.
How do you enable customers to choose the channel
Yes.
that they want to interact you with?
Okay, so for us, technically, we do not have anything that is a straight identifier, but we do also use a lot of the predictive analytics in that sense. And then one thing that we are trying to think more about is the delivery updates. We currently do only use that in email, so we do try to focus a little bit heavier on email in a full sense, but we are looking to give that option to them in a more holistic way.
Liz talked about how she found out that SMS was really good for the coupons, the promotions, right? How are you guys figuring out what content is right for what channel?
Yeah, so for us, we are very content focused in a sense of educational pieces, inspiration for a new backyard outdoor kitchen. So we are very well versed in knowing that that will not resonate well with SMS. We cannot fully get that message out there. So we do kind of just take a look at all of that.
Because we're a subscription, we don't tend to do as many promotions, but much of our outreach is related to what's the next best action for you, or what's the next best action, for you to get the most out of the club. And so there, we try lots of messages and lots of different channels, but it's not just the ones that push towards you. We're also thinking about how do we incorporate the right calls to action within our digital product. When you're going to choose the wines or give us feedback on wines, where are we creating that interaction opportunity within the digital product? We've also created some very personalized content within our shipping boxes. And so we are constantly testing that, and it's too easy to just send things in email and then assume people are going to respond to them. We want those interactions to be organic, and so we're trying to place them into places where the customer can get even more value out of them. Your next box is coming. Here's one or two ways for you to get the most value out of that next box, as opposed to an email that may be completely out of band with that.
Yeah, and I will add too, one thing that we've been utilizing in Attentive is a lot of conversational messaging so that we can have that avenue to gain that insight and not an email way. It just has been more effective for us. So we do try to incorporate learning what is important to them by their communication methods.
Geoff, I love the example that you're including the personalized experiences in the box themselves, right? Could you expand that a little bit more? Like, what else are you including that could be better than wine?
Well, so it's what goes around the wine, and I don't mean the actual packaging. So in the, maybe a year ago, when you opened your box of wine, there were these little called 5x7 cards which spoke about, each wine you were getting. Those were not personalized to you. In the past few months, we've released what's basically a custom printed brochure for every order that has the wines in the order, what those wines are, how much money you've saved on them, how many five-star ratings they've gotten, all things like that. And what we're actually working on that I'm excited about is, over the next few months, updating what's in that, not just to say what these wines are, but to say why we recommended them for you, right? We chose this wine for you because of X, Y, and Z, and we're doing some pretty exciting things with large language models to get there. So I'm excited to pilot that. But if one of the whole value propositions of Firstleaf is helping you explore new wine that you're going to love, we kind of want to tell you why we chose that wine. It makes sense for that.
Let's talk about our other two favorite words as email marketers, which is reach and frequency. How are you guys managing reach and frequency so you're not overloading your customers with all these different messages?
Our main focus for reach and frequency currently is audience segmentation. We do keep in mind that we don't want to over-segment our audience as well, because we have been there. So that's pretty much the focal point for us.
We've tested a variety of different approaches here and actually seen that, not surprisingly, the more we email someone, the lower their retention rate is with the club. So we really, really, really try and manage frequency to only the things that are going to be relevant for that customer. We've actually recently made some big updates to our onboarding series that have reduced the number of touch points by about 50%, and we've seen positive impact from that. So I can only imagine what the other 50% of emails were doing, because they weren't people trying, they weren't related to people trying the wine, they were about the club and other things like that. But that testing approach and seeing, are all these touch points really changing behaviors, or are they just annoying someone, is really important to us.
So if you do annoy those people, or if they fall out of favor, they become lapsed, they become disengaged, do you guys have any recent re-engagement campaigns that have been really successful to kind of bring those people back into the fold?
Yeah, we ran a re-engagement campaign, and what we did was we segmented our audience that was our unengaged audience. I worked with my list track rep on this, and we came up with about 15 different audience segments. From there, we took about a whole month and identified which messages were highest converting previously for similar audiences, and we tagged in these segmented audiences on top of our base audience so that we were keeping deliverability in mind. And we ran this for a month and did not hit them more than once. So we made sure that we were very mindful with our communications to this audience. But just throughout that month, we actually saw that we had a 17.8% increase of people that became re-engaged. I think it just really points to the fact of looking at what we did before, taking the numbers, if our conversion rate was our main focus on this re-engagement campaign, versus open rate, what was the messaging that we really wanted to get in front of them? And it was not the same for every audience either. We did have 15 different iterations of that. So
we tend to think about this more in the context of a customer re-engagement strategy than a channel re-engagement strategy. So one of the things that I enjoy the most about my job is I also manage customer service, and I think that's a really good fit with marketing. And so when folks unsubscribe from the club or unsubscribe from a large number of marketing channels, we actually have our customer service team reach out to them. We have wine concierges who are trained in wine, and they can help configure the club to the best possible combinations for your taste. And so we'll have them reach out and say some version of, you don't look happy. We've noticed something's going on. We'd love to schedule an appointment and chat with you about that. And have actually seen that have really good results both in channel re-engagement and club re-engagement. I think more so than just, let's send a bunch of emails and get people, into our, past our engagement filters.
Yeah. Geoff, it's pretty easy for you guys if you have customer service and marketing under one umbrella, right? Shared goals, shared silos, but many of us probably don't have that luxury where our support teams kind of are separated from somebody else. Do you have any advice on how we can work better with our customer support team and our guest feedback to integrate kind of some of those responses they're getting back from customer complaints?
Well, one of the things that I've heard from customer support teams in the past, certainly before I managed them, was, the people in headquarters don't really know what's going on with the customer, right? And okay, so how do we solve that, right? We've set up a number of call monitoring sessions every month so that folks understand what customers are saying. And I think that becomes a really good way in. So if you in marketing have a bunch of ideas, do a focus group with customer service reps to understand whether they resonate or not. One of the things that's been great about our customer service team is they're willing to do pilots, things that we can't necessarily deliver on in an automated way. They can deliver on in a manual way. So how do we agree to do a pilot with that? And then if that's successful, automate from there. And I think all of that comes from, I've never seen a customer service organization not want to push learnings out to the rest of the organization. So if you can be receptive and sort of pull those learnings out from them, I've seen it work wonders.
Many of us probably own all these channels, right? But if they don't, how do we ensure a seamless customer experience or process-wise to make sure we're all kind of marching in the same direction?
I think it was mentioned today about silos, and I think as marketers, we probably have all experienced that, whether it is with the dev team or the creative team. So I think it is really important to have that communication and be on the same page. I know for me personally in my role, I do manage all of my channels. So we don't have a lot of other people that are involved in the channels, but when we are working on even just something as a campaign where it is cross-channel campaign, just making sure that the communication is there. I'm asking the questions that I need to, what is their goal? Like at their platform area, they may be focusing on something that is different for me, focusing on my channel. So when we're talking about outside of email and SMS, I think just like having that communication, breaking down those silos is very important. But I don't face that currently.
You don't argue with yourself a lot?
I mean, I do.
Usually I'm aligned with myself, usually. Hit or miss.
And while I manage a number of channels, the biggest channel that I don't directly manage is our digital product, our website. And so there's a constant, depending on the day, push and pull or battle with the digital product team to put the right messages in front of the right customer at the right time. We're moving towards having a common decision engine for that. We're not there yet, and so right now there's a lot of testing. I feel lucky in that we do have shared goals around feature adoption and product adoption, and then it's pretty easy to say, I know you didn't want to, it wasn't in scope to build this certain call to action in our dashboard, but you'll notice that the only times that adoption goes up is when we send an email, right? And so we can't send more emails about this thing, so what are other ways to drive adoption? And so that shared goal, even if we're owning different parts of the process, seems to work as well as I've found to drive that sort of consistency across channels.
Last question for me before we open it up to the audience. KPIs. What metrics are you guys looking at, and how often are you looking at them?
Every day I'm like reporting every day just for my own sense too, not necessarily reporting to a bigger team, but SMS click rate is most important for us. When we are using the conversational messaging with Attentive, we do look at the response rate as well. And then in email, conversion rate, we're very revenue driven, but always keeping open rates top of mind, which we've had very strong open rates. We average around like high 60s to 70% open rates, and we have a very high send frequency. But I think open rates, click rates as well, depending on like what the message entails, what's the goal of the message. We do send some that are just very, we want you to know about this, there's no action that's needing to be taken. So it is kind of by a per message decision that we do look at the KPIs, but we do standardize like the conversion rate, revenue, open rate, and then SMS click rate.
We actually have 3 completely separate sets of KPIs that we look at that may be potentially horrifying to some folks, but they all serve different purposes. One sort of that we put at the lowest level is what we call channel health metrics. So that might be unsubscribes, open rates, click rates, those sort of things that are indicators but are not specifically linked to business outputs. The next level up from that is what we call campaign KPIs, and so that would be the actual results of a campaign, ideally in some sort of test versus control approach. We're always testing and coming up with the right way to test things. And then at the highest level, there's what we would call the business metrics. So for us, it's number of active subscribers. It is even LTV to CAC, right? The more that we can drive LTV, the more we actually can spend in CAC to acquire new customers. And so we try and take every dollar of additional LTV that we generate, and we're willing to spend it on that new customer acquisition. And so looking at those 3, and they exist in different time frames, and we look at some get updated, daily, weekly, monthly. It's really helpful to think about all the different activities we're doing and where they actually impact the business.
Yeah, and I will add too, when we are doing like the more main campaigns, we do a post-mortem with more in-depth KPIs than just the email and SMS one. So we do look at the lifetime value. We'll do that post-campaign, but we also do it as a marketing team monthly as well, so that everyone just is kind of aware of all of the different platforms.
Questions from the audience?
Fellow wine connoisseur, heavy drinker.
Those are different.
Those are
maybe,
different.
perhaps.
First-time caller, long-time drinker. Wine clubs are hard, right? Because your satisfaction in your wine club is based on the choices you make for the wines that you're sending out, right? In your thinking through customer comms and customer experience, how do you deal with or think through I got a bunch of wine and I don't like 4 bottles and that your program sucks kind of an attitude, right? I mean, the lever point between I'm happy with what I'm getting and I'm not is what's in the bottle. And so that would be tough. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Sure. So number one, we have a satisfaction guarantee. So if we recommend a bottle of wine that you don't like, you give us a call and we'll make it good, whether it's credits or whether it's an additional bottle of wine in your next order. But one of the things that really makes us unique is we have a lot of data that's driving the wine recommendations we make. And so in some sense, if you don't like the wines, please tell us, please rate them down in our product. That will help us be even better with the recommendations that we make. And so we would actually much rather that you tell us that you didn't like a certain wine than for you not to tell us and for us to never know, right? That's the only way we can get better.
Other questions? All right, well, I got one. Alex, those open rates are absurd. What's the secret sauce?
Testing a lot. We do utilize emojis. We do not utilize emojis in SMS, which is very interesting. Through our testing, we've also realized that our SMS audience just wants very straight to the point, like no fluff about it. But testing mainly, and then always trying to keep a sense of urgency, or like there's not very many left. I can't remember exactly what the subject line was, but it did drive a sense of urgency, and I don't believe it was even for a flash sale, but we saw like an 80% open rate. Wow. So yeah, and I don't know how we have stayed so consistent with it, but we do continuously test, even though it's not like an issue area for us. We do always want to see like what is going to resonate better, because then we also take that in and put that into our automations as well. Like, like the urgency, whatever that shtick was for them, like how can we translate that into our subject lines for our automations?
80%.
Yes.
Are you only sending it to like the moms of the people in your company?
No, this is to our base audience is right now just under 400K, wow. And we have that consistent too. And I'll look up to see what that 80% open rate was, what the subject line was.
Well, whoever your copywriter is, keep their name under lock and key, or they will be poached by Wednesday. All right, last call for questions. All right, beautiful.
Awesome. So I like what you talked about. Oh, I just spoke. I'm Courtney Tierney. I'm with Papa John's. So I like what you said, and I made a note here about the metrics, right? So you have 3 sets of metrics, and the business, campaign, and channel. And you were saying like we all have different times of like how often we look at those, right? If they're daily, monthly, weekly. So my question is like, how do you serve those up to leadership, and how do you all look at them across all the different organization types, like when making decisions, right? I mean, we all know that business is going to trump channel or campaign metrics, but just would love to hear how you serve those up at your company and how you're doing that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, on the channel metrics, I actually try not to serve them up at all. Like, there's no reason for someone in our finance office to know about our email open rates or whatever, and so those we just try and keep within the team and use for optimization. Probably spend the most time talking about campaign metrics, because those are the things we're doing that are most sort of proximate to driving the business. And so we actually have in our company, every department head does a set of weekly business unit updates. And so there, I'll share out wins or losses on a weekly basis as we get results. And that's a great way of sharing information. The things like overall LTV to CAC and all of that, those may fit more into planning processes on a quarterly or monthly basis. But we really try and celebrate those wins and highlight when we're learning things, and so those campaign metrics get shared out the most.
Alex, Geoff, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
It is, it's the season of giving here at MediaPost. And in addition to a community and a network and knowledge that we want to give you, Geoff has been so kind to set us up with a MediaPost promo code at firstleaf.com for $40 for your first 6 bottles plus free shipping. So everyone, I wish there was, I love how many people are taking photos of this. My fault for not including a QR code. I just hate QR codes, so I'm trying to get rid of them personally. But everyone, MediaPost at firstleaf.com, and yeah.
So always be selling, right? But also, I really appreciate your feedback if you decide to take advantage of this, not just on the wine, but also the marketing, the experience, right? I'm a big belief in dog fooding, and so would love feedback from everyone here. So thank you.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
I can applaud for free wine.
Just give your feedback after you've had a couple of glasses. That's what we prefer.